Liz, welcome to the program. It's an honor to have you.
Hi, Benny. Thank you so much for having me on. This is really important information that we need to be talking about in light of the Diddy trial and the Jeffrey Epstein files, hopefully coming out one of these days. It's really important for people to understand that what these elites are involved in goes, unfortunately, way beyond child sex trafficking. These people, as you explained in your fantastic monologue, are involved in satanic rituals, and a lot of them not just worship Satan, but they engage in the satanic ritualistic abuse of these children who they are trafficking.
So, we do our very best to have a PG-13 show here, and we're going to try and stay that way during this interview. But I want to just set the table for the audience here and say that Liz has been a calling out from the wilderness about this for the better part of a decade, at least, and perhaps more. And just like those, the deposition of Jonathan Odie, that seemed like a crazy crackpot thing to say back in 2018, but has been proven right again and again and again. It's like some people just are able to see some dark truths that maybe the rest of us don't want to. And so I would just want to take a step back, Liz, because you're the expert, and explain what we learned this week about Cassie, Diddy, Jonathan Odie,
Yes,
and maybe expand that world for us.
absolutely. So you want to start with Jonathan Odie?
Yeah, why not go there?
Okay, so Jonathan Odie, as you explained earlier, so he is the person that went to Trump Doral in Miami in 2018. And I'm sure you saw the footage of him at the hotel. And he went there with an American flag, and he draped the American flag at the front desk in the lobby. And then he was running around with a handgun. And in the footage, you can see he's kind of sloppy. He's kind of like this cartoonish character. He trips twice. Like literally looks like a sketch from Mr. Bean. And of course, he was arrested. He was involved in a shootout, and he was arrested by police. And then he was interrogated by police. And that video was made public years ago. And in that video, he said that he did not intend to hurt anyone. He went to Trump's hotel because he was trying to warn President Trump about Diddy, Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama. And he said that he was one of Diddy's sex workers. Now, he claims that these people are members of the cabal. They're involved in satanic rituals, including pedophilia, the animal abuse, dark satanic rituals. And he said that they are plotting to kill President Trump. And we all know that years later, they attempted to assassinate President Trump. So, of course, he was right about that. So, as you mentioned earlier, at the time when this video came out, everyone just thought this guy was nuts. Nobody believed him. He was completely dismissed, right? Well, the bombshell that happened this week is that Cassie Ventura, who is Diddy's ex-girlfriend, she's been on the stand all week, and she took the stand today as well. She confirmed that Jonathan Odie indeed was one of Diddy's sex workers. So when he said in his interrogation video that he was one of Diddy's sex workers, and he said he was more of a sex slave, he was telling the truth. So now we have to analyze everything else he said, because if he was telling the truth about that, maybe we should believe him about the other stuff. In terms of his claims that they're all involved in some kind of an Illuminati club where they engage in satanic rituals. Let me just start off with Diddy. So Diddy, he's had several people accuse him of conducting satanic rituals, and some of them have done it on the record. So I'll go back years ago. There was a blind item in Crazy Days and Nights that said that Diddy was on a yacht somewhere, I think in Italy, off the coast of Italy years ago. And he instructed one of his staff members to go get a live goat. They brought the goat to the yacht, and allegedly he sacrificed this live goat in a satanic ritual on the yacht. Fast forward to last year, there was a docuseries that came out where a former security guard for Diddy went on the record and he said that when Diddy was on the way to the trial for his 1990 nightclub shooting in New York, when he was headed to hear that verdict, he had his security team stop in Central Park on the way to the courthouse. And when he got to Central Park, he met with a man and they engaged in some kind of satanic ritual where he killed a bird. So there have been people that know Diddy that claim they have seen him engage in satanic rituals. So again, going back to Jonathan Odie, his claims don't sound so crazy anymore, do they, Betty?
Well, when he says that they're going to kill President Trump like JFK, that was unthinkable. I mean, I know that it's now, I know the past is prologue, so we now are like, wow, he got shot in Butler. But at the time, even when that news broke, it was unthinkable. You don't assassinate presidents like the old dirty old-fashioned way, right? Lone gunman on a rooftop at a live rally. That's not the way that this happens. But Jonathan Odie said it will happen just like JFK. And I was like, well, he's right. He predicted this. I would have thought, okay, so Liz, if you would have said on July 12th, the day before the assassination on President Trump, how would they kill Trump? I'd say drone, maybe like a dirty bomb, like you poison his food, right? Spy versus spy stuff, right? You're real sophisticated. And this dude straight up said exactly how they were going to kill Trump. And it's like, where'd he get that exactly? So can you? So this Diddy trial obviously is unlocking stuff that I would have never seen. So what else have we learned in this trial?
Well, and I just want to add in terms of the assassination attempt, he also talked about CIA mind control, and which is, MK Ultra would be a form of mind control that the CIA conducts. And that's been proven to be true through declassified materials that have been released over the years, that Project Monarch, which was a CIA mind control program, was real, right? So he talked about CIA mind control as well, but he also talked about predictive programming. And what the deep state does is that the deep state, the members of the cabal, whatever you want to call them, because they're Satanists, and this isn't what I believe, but this is what they believe in truth in plain sight, and they believe that they have to announce their plans before they commit them. And even if it's just through TV shows or their art or music, they believe that that's what they have to do. So if you look at a show like The Simpsons, people are like, oh my gosh, how did The Simpsons predict so much stuff? And it's like, well, no, actually, that's part of their predictive programming. They are announcing their plans in advance. And they believe that if they announce them through pop culture and people accept that, then that's a ritual for them, and they can justify it that way. And so that's what these people do. So Jonathan Odie also talked about that, and he talked specifically about how they were kind of preparing the masses for President Trump's assassination attempt. And he specifically mentioned Madonna. Now, do you remember years ago after President Trump was elected the first term, she got on stage and at some kind of protest against Trump, and she called for President Trump to be killed. I believe she said that they should bomb the White House. He specifically mentioned that. So when they do this predictive programming, they're kind of preparing the masses, and they're also trying to get the masses to accept their plans in advance. And to them, it's a satanic ritual.
So, and you're exactly right. She said blow up the White House, and he mentioned that. Okay,
well,
so
and there were many celebrities that called for the killing of Trump. And then, of course, we all know what James Comey posted on his Instagram page yesterday, who is now being investigated by the FBI. So that wasn't too smart of him to do.
Yes, exactly. All the more reason to throw the total book at James Comey and hopefully him and the slammer. So staying on Diddy, can you answer a question for me? So we've covered a bit on the show, sort of up to this point. What I've learned, and I've learned a lot of it through your X feed, But here's something that I don't know, and I can't figure it out. Why is this happening to Diddy? Well, did he stop being protected? Like what ends up happening with the Weinsteins and the Epsteins and the Diddys? Like what's going on? My instinct, Liz, and I'm no expert, but is that they're doing a mop-up operation. They put James Comey's daughter over it. She's apparently bombing at this trial, and they're not really like sticking. Nothing's really sticking, and they're able to like almost sanitize these charges against him and let him off, maybe with like a slap on the wrist. But what do I know, right? Why did this happen? About a year ago, the raids on Diddy started happening. Why?
So, okay. Historically, when we've seen high-profile people, celebrities fall, R. Kelly would be one example. Harvey Weinstein would be another example. A lot of people believe that they use certain people in Hollywood as sacrificial lambs to protect the bigger fish. And I strongly believe, specifically with R. Kelly, that that's what they did to him. So what R. Kelly did was horrific. He was abusing women. He was trafficking women. He was raping women. He's a monster. But he was very good friends with Jay-Z. Now, there's evidence that Jay-Z was behind his fall because Jay-Z has funded a woman that was behind the series that exposed R. Kelly, Surviving R. Kelly. He was funding that. So I do believe that some of these celebrities will throw another celebrity, including their friends, under the bus to protect themselves. Now, in terms of Diddy, I do believe that what Diddy's pals and his co-conspirators, I do believe their intention is for him to be another sacrificial lamb, such as Harvey Weinstein and R. Kelly. With that being said, I do know that there are a lot of good guys that are working in law enforcement are in the judicial system, in the FBI, in the NYPD, and I do believe that those two forces are at odds. I don't think that Diddy is going to be a one and done. I do not think that he's going to be a sacrificial lamb. I believe that's the intention. I don't believe that's going to be the outcome. And here's why. There's been, I think, over 70 lawsuits, civil lawsuits that have been filed against Diddy. And one of the most explosive ones was filed by Lil Rod, okay? In many of these lawsuits, there has been evidence included that has implicated other high-profile celebrities in crimes. And so since there's been so much exposure, especially through these lawsuits, and in addition to that, during Diddy's criminal trial just this week alone, we've heard many names get mentioned. So I think as much as they will try to make Diddy the sacrificial lamb and try to get everyone else off the hook, I think that the public is too awake. I think, Trump's back in office. We have Cash as the head of the FBI. They are making combating child sex trafficking a priority. President Trump's team, they are going after and deporting the lower level sex traffickers, the gang members, the cartel members, the MS-13 members. And people have to understand these are the kinds of people who worked for Diddy. Diddy's ring was massive. The lower level people that are actually trafficking the children in rings such as, or I should say allegedly, such as Diddy's and Jeffrey Epstein's, the people that were on the ground doing the trafficking, those were the MS-13 members, the cartel members. These are the foot soldiers for the deep state. Well, what is President Trump's administration doing? They are getting rid of the lower hanging fruit. They are deporting them. They are arresting them. And I'm sure many of them are talking. And when you have a RICO case and when you take down a huge criminal enterprise, you have to start at the bottom. You have to start at the lower hanging fruit, which I see happening right now. And then you work your way up to the top to the bigger fish. And the other thing that I will mention that a lot of people don't understand, and General Flynn has mentioned this as well, and I know that General Flynn goes on your show all the time, and you really admire and respect him. General Flynn has said, and I strongly believe this too, that Diddy's ring was involved in the sex trafficking of migrant children. And one piece of evidence that would support this is that one of Diddy's bodyguards purchased a property on the in California on the California Mexico border. And it's like, why would they be so interested in a property on the border unless they had the intention to do nefarious activity? When these children cross the border, a lot of them come alone. Who's picking them up? Why would an associate of Diddy want a property on the border unless they're interested in trafficking? Not just drugs, children.
Yeah, I highly doubt it's for sheep herding.
Exactly. And these are elites, I've seen this border property, not in person. I've seen photographs of it. These are elites. They love, their lives of luxury. They love yachts. They love, 5-star hotels. This is a property that, it's not a high value property. It's kind of like it has a desert vibe and there's not much there. And, it's in the middle of nowhere. Like, why wouldn't Diddy associate be interested in that? And as we all know, Biden's administration was involved in trafficking migrant children. We have hundreds of thousands of missing migrant children. We have whistleblowers who have come forward and said that it was Biden's Homeland Security and Health and Human Services that was knowingly trafficking children. And a lot of these children were put on private jets, which was reported years ago, including by the mainstream media. They were put on private jets that were off the books, by the way. They're totally off the books in the middle of the night. Some of these private jets were flying to very wealthy areas where elites live. Now put 2 and 2 together with that. So we know the Biden administration used the government, our taxpayer dollars, to traffic children. We know that Diddy allegedly is involved in sex trafficking. And we know that these high-profile Democrats are close with people like Diddy. So it's very easy to connect the dots here to see what's going on. Diddy's ring is much bigger than people realize. I do believe it was massive. I know it was linked to Jeffrey Epstein's ring as well. I do believe it involved intelligence agencies. I know Diddy was tied to the CIA, the feds, and, people like Diddy, Jay-Z, they have everyone in their back pocket. These people, they will pay off judges. They will pay off police officers. They will pay off coroners to list a death that was obviously a murder as a natural cause. Look at the footage from the Intercontinental Hotel where Diddy beat the crap out of Cassie. Everyone has seen that video. He did it in a hallway there. It's not like it happened in his private hotel room. He beat the crap out of her in a hallway there. They showed photos in court this week of the mess that was left after that. He threw a vase at her. It was a complete disaster. There had to have been several people at that hotel who were employees of that hotel who either saw the tape and or were involved in the cleanup of that situation, because it was the hotel staff that had to clean up that mess, right? So that's several people that knew Diddy beat the crap out of Cassie, who did not go to cops, who did not go public, who did not go to the media. They all stayed quiet. Now, why would they stay quiet? Because people like Diddy will pay all these people off. And unfortunately, most people take money.
Can you zoom out on one specific topic that you just touched on, which is what, and I have my priors on this, but I'd love to hear you talk about it. What is the usefulness, what is the motility of a Diddy ring and a Diddy operation like this to the deep state, to the CIA, to the feds? Why would they protect him? You just described major protections. I mean, listen, when you're doing this kind of stuff on camera, when you're getting away with it on camera, you're talking like the highest possible level of protections. So easy to get that footage. A single lawsuit, a single hard drive, a single flash drive could get you that footage, no problem. Destroys everyone. Like everything comes crashing down, right? But they were able to cover that up beyond the statute of limitations, right? The LA Police Department says, can't do anything about it, right? That's some real protection. It seems like protection from like way up high. So you have to assume that it's the feds. And you just mentioned that it was the CIA. And so talk me through that relationship. What do they get out of it?
Well, okay, so these rings have many different incentives, right? And there's many different layers to them. So when you look at Diddy's ring or Jeffrey Epstein's ring, at the top, they were involved in sex trafficking. When you go lower and you go deeper, then you realize it's not just sex trafficking. These people are involved in satanic rituals. When you go deeper than that, you realize the reason why they're running these sex trafficking operations is to blackmail people. How do you control people? How do you control a powerful individual who has a ton of influence, whether that is an elected official or, a pop singer or whoever? Well, you blackmail them. So when you look at Diddy and Epstein, they both were videotaping everything that happened in their homes at these parties where crimes were committed. So the incentive would be to have blackmail footage on other celebrities and politicians. So then the powers that be, the deep state, the CIA, the intel agencies, the feds, whoever, then they can control those people. You don't vote this way, then we're going to release the video of you, at a freak off party, or we're going to release a video of you with a child, or, to some of these celebrities in Hollywood, if you don't do a video telling all your followers that you must take the vaccine, well, then we're going to release, your video from Jeffrey Epstein's island. Blackmail is what rules the world. And unfortunately, there's so many people in Hollywood and many people in government, many members of Congress who are blackmailed. And that's what Diddy's operation really was about. And that's what Jeffrey Epstein's operation was really about. We know Pam Bondi said the other day, they're going through tens of thousands of videos. Now think about that. Jeffrey Epstein, his operation went on for almost 3 decades. He had cameras wired in all of his homes, not just the island, Benny. He had multiple homes. He had the Manhattan home. He had the Zorro Ranch where he was raping victims, including children as well. He had cameras in all these homes. It was 24-hour surveillance. Benny, Jeffrey Epstein even had cameras in the toilets at his home. Think about that. So Pam Bondi's team is having to go through almost 30 years of blackmail footage from multiple homes.
We've read about this stuff, and it's disquieting to the spirit, and it's really tough to talk about, and we believe that it's a service, like to greater understand what's happening at this Diddy trial and what's greater understand what's happening with Epstein, which we talk about all the time. You sort of have to stare evil in the face. And I'd like to close with this, Liz. Do you believe that President Trump can combat this evil? Do you believe that the American public can even stomach the reality about what's been running their country? Because there are still so many people who have sort of glassy doe eyes about this place being, land of the free, home of the brave, and, a Christian nation. I believe that it still is, actually. It's just we have a very sick and demonic leadership class. And perhaps the exposing of those people would be the punishment in and of itself. But I feel like maybe we have a historic moment here to do that, and that President Trump may well have the proper motivations to get it done. Do you believe that?
Absolutely. I worked in the mainstream media actually for 2 decades, and I used to cover The Apprentice. And so I started covering President Trump, long before he became president. And I've known him and his family, and I've covered them for many, many years. And in 2016, I started covering the election, and it became very clear to me very quickly that, in my opinion, the main reason President Trump ran is because he knew these elites were involved in the rape, torture, and trafficking children. And I am confident that is the main reason he ran, to end it once and for all. Now, back in 2017, after he was first sworn in, within 2 or 3 weeks of him, of his first term, he actually gave a listening session where he said that he was going to combat child sex trafficking like it's never been done before. And guess what? That is exactly what he did during his first term. Now, the mainstream media didn't cover it, but he took down Backpage. He's the reason why Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell were arrested. He took down Nexium. He was arresting a ton of these lower level sex traffickers, many of the MS-13 members, the CJNG cartel members who were trafficking children. Many of them were arrested during his first term. Actually, I am very confident that President Trump ran to combat child sex trafficking and to break up these elite pedophile rings and to end them. And he started the job during his first term. And I'm very confident that he will finish the job his second term. But he needs the public behind him. And the way that we can make sure that Diddy is not just another sacrificial lamb, that he's not another one and done, is by people like you shedding light on this, and by the public demanding that no, it can't just be Diddy who's arrested, who is convicted. It has to be every single person in his ring that was involved with trafficking women, men, and children. We have to demand that. And the way that we demand that is exposure by people like you talking about this stuff. It's dark. It's horrific. And as you mentioned, it is hard for people to stomach. But what I would say about that is, too bad, tough. How do you think these children feel? How do you think some of these children are passed around like dozens of times in one day? Most of them do not survive more than 6 to 12 months tops when they are trafficked. So I don't want to hear about anyone complaining that it's too hard to hear about this stuff, or it's too dark, it's too depressing, too bad. How do you think these kids feel? And because so many people have turned a blind eye to this, or they don't want to hear about it because it's depressing, because so many people have done that, this has continued to go on. So people just need to toughen up, and they need to understand that this is real, and they need to get in the fight. Because if we are going to ensure that this ends once and for all, and everyone involved in Jeffrey Epstein's ring and Diddy's rings is brought to justice, everybody needs to get in the fight, and they need to get loud, and they need to do what they can in their communities to combat this.
Everyone can sit there, Christians can sit there and read about Sodom and Gomorrah. It's tough to realize that you're living in it, right? Yeah. And so this stuff, it does exist in the Bible. It's something that is constantly being fought over, darkness versus light, and it's what we wish to do on this program. It's actually a service, hopefully, to the nation and to my children, to our children, because you don't want to live in a place run by a satanic cult. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to fight the good fight, go follow Liz. Here's her X account. She has 500,000 subscribers, and well, I have a feeling that we can get her to millions. And Liz does speak the truth, and she does it so boldly, it's just impossible to ignore. Liz, Godspeed, and you're doing God's work, bringing light. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Benny, for covering this topic. I know it's difficult to cover, but courage is contagious, and so I really appreciate it. And I hope that you inspire others to get in the fight, because if we aren't fighting to protect our children, then who are we as humans? We've just failed. The human race has failed if we can't even protect children. So God bless you.
Yeah, and
you keep up the good fight.
Your cover image pick goes really hard, because as we played last week, this is the one club that Jeffrey Epstein was ever kicked out of, actually.
Oh, yeah.
So the one guy that had the balls to kick Jeffrey Epstein out of his club was Donald Trump. And he banned him on the spot when he heard about Jeffrey Epstein and just the rumors of Jeffrey Epstein with young girls. Trump did it, and he never looked back. So God, pray for President Trump. Pray for the truth tellers. Godspeed, Liz.
You too. God bless you, Benny.